Everyone told me to wait for my Prince Charming, the man who would sweep me off my feet, make my heart race, and give meaning to every lonely night I had survived. They said love would arrive gently, with honesty, with warmth, with a smile that felt like a promise. No one warned Metha, sometimes the man who feels like a fairy tale in the beginning is the one who destroys you the most in the end. When I met him, he wasn't dazzling or loud. He wasn't the strongest man in the room, the most handsome. He didn't walk in like a prince, but he spoke like one. Soft, warm, careful. If every sentence was crafted or touched the parts of men no one else had ever reached. People say liars avoid eye contact, but he didn't. He looked directly into my eyes with the kind of steadiness that made me believe had nothing to hide. That was his greatest talent. He used sincerity as a disguise. He listened to every word I said like he was memorizing scripture. He repeated my fears back to main gentler language, as if translating my pain into something beautiful, mirrored my emotions so perfectly that I thought we were soulmates. People don't usually align that way unless one of them is pretending. He said he loved honesty. He said he hated secrets. He said he valued trust more than anything. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Trust is easy when someone gives you no reason to question it, but that was his design. His blueprint. His craft. Because he wasn't a prince, he was an architect of illusions, a man who built Lise with the precision of a professional. I was the perfect target, the girl who had been waiting her whole life for someone to choose her. He studied Methway. A magician studies the audience too, know where to direct the hand and where to hide the trick, knew when to text and when to disappear. When to touch me on, when to pull away, when to sound vulnerable, when to sound strong. He made me feel safe just long enough to trust him, completely bore pulling the ground out from under me. At first, it was little things. Stories that didn't quite add up. Conversations he changed, moments he claimed to forget that were too big to forget. But every time I questioned him, he smiled gently and turned the doubt around until I felt ashamed for even asking. He didn't lie like an amateur with stumbling words and shaky excuses. He lied with confidence. With charm. With a steady voice. Someone who has practiced deception for so it feels like truth to him. And I mistook that confidence for honesty. He wasn't Prince Charming. He was a professional liar. A man who knew exactly how to twist reality until I couldn't tell what was true and what he wanted me to believe. The night everything shattered with something small, a message, a name, a detail forgot to manipulate. And in that tiny crack, the whole mask crumbled. I realized then that I hadn't fallen in love with a man at all. I had fallen in love with the character he created, a performance he rehearsed, a fairy tale he sold. Muhail hiding a darkness I never imagined. People warn you about heartbreak. They warn you about betrayal. But no one warns Yawu about the moment you realize that person you love it never existed. That worse than heartbreak. Worse than betrayal. It is grief. A grief for someone you hold wasn't real. And this is the story of how I loved Emmanuel, mastered the art of lying, and how I learned Ned's villains didn't wear masks, erased their voices. Sometimes they whisper like Engelson, look you directly in the eyes when they lie. Sometimes the truth doesn't reveal itself loudly. It doesn't explode. It doesn't scream. It slips in quietly through the smallest crack, the slightest inconsistency, the kind of detail your heart wants to ignore but your mind can't quite forget. For me, the first crack appeared on a quiet night, when he accidentally mentioned something claimed had never happened. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't suspicious. Just one misplaced sentence. He said, my sister used to say that too. But he had always told me he was an only child. He had said it with sadness, with a kind of heaviness I never questioned. I froze for a moment. He noticed. His eyes flickered just for a second, like a flame caught in the wind. Then he laughed. Oh, I meant my cousin. I call her my sister sometimes. A simple explanation. Easy. Clean. But the way he said it, too quick, too ready, as if he had used that line before. I told myself to drop it, and I did, at least that night. But after that, I started hearing the cracks everywhere. He once told me he hated dogs. But 2 weeks later, he talked about a dog he grew up with. He told me he had never traveled much. Then suddenly he had stories from all the states he visited. He said he didn't drink, but then described his favorite wine. Each lie was small, microscopic. But together, they formed a pattern I could no longer ignore. Still, I didn't confront him. Not because I was scared of him, but because I was scared of losing the version of him I had fallen in love with. Loving a liar is like holding sand. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips through your fingers. One evening, I tried asking gently, "You told me you didn't like traveling, right?" He paused just long enough for my stomach to tighten. Then he smiled. "I didn't. But maybe you're mixing it up. I told you I used to travel a bit for work." He said it so calmly thought. For a moment I doubted my own memory. That was his power. He didn't lie to fool me. He lied to make me question myself. Every time I brought something up, he made me feel like the forgetful one, the confused one, the overly emotional one. He didn't defend his lies, he erased them. And little by little, I started erasing my doubts. Until one night changed everything. He left his jacket in my apartment. It wasn't unusual, but when I picked it up to hang it, something slipped out of the patient wristband from a hospital in another city. A city he had said it had never been to. My breath caught. My heartbeat thud. My hands began to tremble. The name on the band was his, but the details, the date, the notes, none of it matched the life he described to me. I waited. Frozen. Paralyzed by a fear line I still can't fully put into words. A mix of betrayal, fear, and the brutal realization thought I didn't know the man I loved. When he came over later that night, he saw the band on my table. Instantly, his eyes changed. The softness disappeared. The warmth vanished. His expression went blank to blank, as if he was switching masks and hadn't chosen which one to wear yet. "What's this?" I asked softly. He didn't answer. He just stared at it. Then, slowly, he sat down opposite me and said the 7 words that made my blood run cold. "That's none of your concern right now." My concern. The man whose heartbeat I once fell asleep listening to was now a stranger speaking like a prosecutor. My voice shook. "You lied to me." He closed his eyes, as if exhausted from carrying a truth never intended to reveal. "You wouldn't have understood," he whispered. That sentence felt like a knife, because liars don't say, "I didn't mean to lie." They say, "You wouldn't understand the truth." I pressed again. "You told me you've never been to that city." He met my eyes with stillness that felt rehearsed. "I say a lot of things. I'm trying to keep my life simple." It was the first honest thing he ever said and the most terrifying. He didn't lie by mistake. He lied to simplify his web of stories. He lied to protect a version of himself sold to me. And the more I asked, the colder he became. Not angry, not defensive. Cold. Detached. Like a man removing emotional fingerprints from a crime scene. "You think everything has to be shared," he said. "You think honesty means exposing every part of yourself." I shook my head. "That's not what He cut me off. "I lied because honesty complicates things." My heart cracked. "Do you even know who you are?" I whispered. He smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was the empty smile of someone who's worn masks for so long doesn't remember the face beneath. "I know exactly who I am," he said, quietly. "I just don't show it to people. Can't handle it." I realized then thought he wasn't confused, or lost, or broken. He was practiced, trained, experienced, a professional liar. A man who didn't trip over the truth, he walked around it. I looked at Hyman, finally saw the truth. The man I loved never existed. He was a character, a script, a performance, and I was the audience. Ho clapped. Too long. But liars like him don't fear losing love. They fear losing control. After that night, something inside me broke quietly, not with tears, not with screaming, but with a silent collapse of everything I thought I knew. Lies don't just twist stories, they twist reality. And when reality breaks, it's not the world that falls apart, it's you. The next morning, I woke up before him, something I rarely did. He slept peacefully, as if deception had never touched his conscience. His face looked soft, innocent, even the face I had fallen in love with. But now, I knew better. I knew innocence could be a perfect disguise. For a long moment, I just stared at him, not as the man I loved, but as the man who crafted the illusion I loved. I tried to trace the truth in his features, but all I saw were lies, layered like pinch coat covering the one beneath it, until no original color remained. When he finally opened his eyes, he smiled at me. A slow, practiced smile, the same one that once warmed me and now felt like a blade. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. A liar's favorite question. I nodded. I lied, just like he taught me. He sat up, stretched, as if nothing between us had shifted. He didn't bring up the hospital band. He didn't bring up the inconsistency. He didn't bring up the truth, because bringing up the truth will mean acknowledging it existed. Instead, he made breakfast, played my favorite music, kissed my forehead like he always did. He performed Loveth Way. An actor performs a well-rehearsed scene with precision, with timing, with just enough emotianto, make you forget it's not real. But now I saw the marks, the forced pauses, the strategic touches, the carefully timed affection, that everything was scripted, that everything was manipulation, and for the first time, I didn't respond, I didn't laugh at his jokes, I didn't melt under his tenderness. He noticed, of course he noticed, liars don't fear being caught, they fear losing their influence. "What's going on with you?" he asked, his voice lower this time, a shift from gentle Laverto, calculated observer. I shrugged. Another lie. Another survival instinct. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Don't do this," he whispered. "Don't. Pull away." He sounded hurt, but not like a man losing love. More like a man losing control. I didn't answer. The silence unsettled him. He wasn't used to silence. He was used to controlling the narrative, guiding the conversation, directing the scene like a director on set. Finally, he spoke again. "You're imagining things. You always do this. You overthink." The way he said you felt like an attack cloaked in tenderness. A tactic, a shift of blame. I looked at him calmly and said, "I know you lied." His breath caught the smallest flinch, barely visible, but enough to confirm everything. He didn't deny it. He didn't confess. He didn't apologize. He tilted his head slightly and said, "So what?" "So what?" 2 words that sliced deeper than any lie could have. So what? As if truth didn't matter. So what? As if betrayal was trivial. So what? As if my love was just another resource he could exploit. I realized, right then thought, he didn't fear losing my Bacchus. He never actually had me. He only had my belief. My hope. My faith in who he pretended to be. Without that belief, he had nothing. I stood up. Calm. Steady. Strangely free. "I'm leaving," I said. He laughed, softly, a humorless sound. "You always say that, but you won't. You need me." But this time, his confidence didn't shake me. It repulsed me. "No," I whispered. "I needed the man you pretended to be." The words hit him harder than any accusation. For the first time, I saw panic flicker in his eyes. Not panic of losing love, panic of losing control. He stood up quickly, tried to touch my arm. I stepped back. A simple motion, but enough to shift the entire balance. "Don't be dramatic," he said, his tone colder now. "You're not thinking clearly." But for the first time in months, I was. I grabbed my bag, walked to the door, and without looking back, said the words I needed to hear myself speak. "You lied about everything. And I loved Emmanuel never existed." He didn't chase me. He didn't call after me. He didn't apologize. He just stood there silent and expressionless, because without the role he played in my life, he had no script left outside. The air felt colder, but real. Every breath hurt, but it was mine. Healing didn't begin that day. It began. The die stopped. Searching for the truth in a labyrinth, started searching for the truth in myself. I learned that loving lives behind lease isn't a reflection of your weakness, it's a reflection of your heart. A heart that believed in goodness even where there was none. And slowly, piece by piece, I rebuilt myself. Not through his words, not through his stories, but through the truth I reclaimed from the ruins he left behind. He wasn't Prince Charming. He wasn't broken. He wasn't misunderstood. He was a professional liar. And I was the woman who finally stopped participating in his performance. The truth didn't set me free. My decision to walk away did.